Maybe no one noticed, but you noticed too soon. While other children played, you watched. While some made mistakes without fear, you calculated consequences. Growing up too fast wasn't a choice, it was a smart response to an environment that demanded maturity ahead of time. And the most curious thing is that, on the outside, this became strength inside. It became silence, tension, and a constant feeling of always owing something to the world. The problem is that this early maturity is often confused with personality, when in fact it is adaptation to childhood trauma. Excessive responsibility, self-control, anxiety, perfectionism. All of these seem like virtues, but they exact a high price throughout life. In this content, you will understand why so many strong people feel tired, why the inner child still hurts in silence, and how emotional healing begins when you stop demanding yourself so much and start truly listening to yourself. Not to become someone new, but to finally exist whole. Growing up too fast is not about being precocious by choice, it's about adaptation. Many children experience silent childhood trauma when they realize that there is no room for error, rest, or spontaneity. They learn early that playing is a luxury, that feeling is dangerous, and that responsibility comes before being held. This forced maturity is often applauded by adults, but almost never accompanied by real care. Inside, the inner child is being pushed into a corner, waiting for an after that never comes. When childhood is interrupted, the body goes into survival mode without realizing it. Hypervigilance arises, that constant attention to the environment, problems, and other people's expectations. Children grow up reading the world like someone crossing a minefield, always alert, always tense. Growing up too quickly becomes an identity, not a choice, and this shapes the way we love, work, and even rest. And that's when the story starts to gain deeper layers, which connect directly with the next point. Parentification happens when the child, without realizing it, switches roles with the adults around them. She becomes the one who listens to outbursts, calms crises, takes care of siblings, solves practical or emotional problems that should never have been hers. This type of childhood trauma doesn't come with shouting, but with subtle phrases like "you're so mature" or "I can only count on you." Little by little, forced maturity stops being the exception and becomes the rule, and the child learns that being loved depends on being needed. The problem is that this inversion creates a distorted sense of responsibility. Children grow up believing that they need to support the emotional world of others, even when they can barely support their own. Emotional suppression arises because there is no space to feel when you are busy caring. A simple exercise to start undoing this is to ask yourself, when faced with any guilt, is this mine or am I carrying something that never was? This reflection paves the way to understand how this dynamic shapes behaviors that later appear to be virtues but hide pure survival. Excessive responsibility, early independence, and extreme self-control are often seen as admirable qualities. But often, this is just survival disguised as maturity. Those who have experienced childhood trauma learn early that dependence is risky, so they do everything alone. Constant praise reinforces the idea that growing up too quickly was a positive thing, when, in fact, it was the only possible way out. Behind this strong posture, the inner child remains exhausted, trying not to fail. This type of adaptation creates patterns that are difficult to break in adult life. The person feels proud of being able to handle everything, but pays the price with anxiety, constant tension, and difficulty in asking for help. A simple practice is to notice where you insist on proving competence without a real need. Books like The Body Keeps the Marks, by Bessel van der Kolk, help to understand how the body registers this false maturity. And the more you observe this, the clearer the next mechanism that underpins it all becomes: constant attention to emotional danger. Emotional hypervigilance arises when the child learns that he needs to predict the climate in the house to protect himself. She starts to read tones of voice, silences, looks and changes in mood as if they were warning signs. Growing too fast means always being aware of what could go wrong, even when nothing is happening. This constant state of alert shapes the nervous system and keeps anxiety in the background, like a noise that never turns off. It's not exaggerated intuition, it's adaptation to childhood trauma. In adult life, this hypervigilance appears as difficulty relaxing or truly being present. The mind is always anticipating conflicts, reviewing conversations, and trying to avoid discomfort. A practical step to start breaking this cycle is to practice conscious pauses. Take a deep breath, observe the environment and ask, am I safe now? Readings like The Power of Now, by Eckhart Tolle, help you get out of this mode of continuous alert. And when vigilance decreases, another need arises to control everything so as not to lose this false sense of security. When the environment was unpredictable, control became a refuge. Growing up too fast teaches you that keeping everything on a tight leash seems like the only way to avoid emotional chaos. The person starts to control words, reactions, decisions, and even feelings, believing that this way they will be safe. This behavior is born from childhood trauma and mixes with hypervigilance, creating constant internal vigilance. From the outside, it looks like organization inside. It is permanent tension. The problem is that controlling everything takes a toll on the body and mind. Anxiety increases, tiredness accumulates, and pleasure is left for later. A simple exercise is to start with the micro. Choose something small to not control, like allowing yourself to make mistakes in a conversation or changing your mind without justifying yourself. Books like The Courage to Be Imperfect, by Brené Brown, help you understand how letting go of control is not weakness, it's internal security. And when control fails, an even deeper habit emerges. Not feeling. Emotional suppression is not born out of coldness, but out of necessity. Many children learn early that crying, complaining, or asking for help only makes the situation worse. So they swallow their tears, silence their anger, and move on, as if nothing was happening. Growing up too fast teaches you that feeling is dangerous and that emotions get in the way of survival. Over time, the body adapts, but the inner child remains frozen, waiting for permission to exist. In adult life, this suppression appears as difficulty identifying what one feels or as a constant feeling of emptiness. The person functions well, but does not connect deeply with themselves. A practical start is to name simple emotions throughout the day, even if they seem small. I'm tired, I'm frustrated, I'm relieved. Readings such as Emotional Intelligence, by Daniel Goleman, help to rebuild this internal bridge. And when feeling becomes possible again, patterns emerge that have been hidden for years, such as anxiety and perfectionism. Constant anxiety, perfectionism, and the habit of pleasing everyone don't come out of nowhere. They are direct consequences of a nervous system shaped by the chronic stress of childhood trauma. Those who had to grow up too quickly learn that making mistakes could cost affection, security, or stability, so they do everything too right, deliver more than what is asked, and live on alert, trying to anticipate expectations that were not always stated. This pattern generates silent exhaust because the ruler never lowers. A simple exercise is to notice where you say yes when you want to say no, just to avoid discomfort. Start small, without major confrontations, just respecting your internal limits. Books like When Too Much Hurts, by Harriet Breaker, help you recognize these patterns more clearly. And, little by little, it becomes clear that behind it all there is an even deeper belief about personal value. When childhood was marked by parentification and forced maturity, personal value began to be measured by utility. Children learn that they are loved when they resolve, help, support, or make life easier for others. Growing up too quickly creates the feeling that existing is not enough. You have to be necessary. This belief silently infiltrates the identity and reinforces emotional suppression, because feeling does not serve anything. In adult life, this appears as difficulty resting without guilt or receiving care without discomfort. A practical step is to take short breaks without productivity. Even if it feels strange at first, ask yourself, if I don't do anything now, am I still worthy of affection? Readings like You can heal your life, by Louise Hay, help to give new meaning to this internal relationship. And when this confusion begins to be questioned, relationships also begin to reveal deep patterns. Those who grew up carrying too many emotional responsibilities tend to love with fear. There is difficulty in depending, trusting, and, at the same time, an intense need for closeness. This back and forth is typical of anxious attachment, shaped by childhood trauma and parentification. Growing up too fast. Taught that bonds are unstable and that loving is often about saving the other before being saved. In practice, this generates unbalanced relationships, where one takes too much care and the other receives too much. A simple exercise is to observe whether you confuse love with constant effort. Ask yourself, if I stop saving, will this relationship still exist? Readings like Love or Depend, by Walter Riso, help you recognize these patterns without guilt. And when this cycle begins to become visible, a deep tiredness appears that permeates body and mind. There is a type of exhaustion that doesn't go away with a vacation or a good night's sleep. It is the emotional fatigue of someone who has spent their entire lives being strong, responsible, and available. Growing too fast creates the feeling that stopping is dangerous, because no one will hold it all anymore. This burnout does not come from excessive tasks, but from forced maturity maintained for years without real rest. The body begins to show signs: discouragement, irritability, memory lapses, the desire to disappear for a few days. A practical step is to review where you continue to take on weights that are no longer yours. Start by delegating something small or allowing yourself not to solve someone else's problem. Books like When the Body Says No, by Gabor Mate, help to understand this exhaustion as a consequence of childhood trauma, not as a personal failure. And when the body gets tired, the deepest pain finally demands space. Grief. There comes a time when you can no longer move forward without looking back. Mourning for lost childhood is not dramatic or loud, it is silent and deep. It's the pain of realizing that no one took care of those who needed to be taken care of, that there was no room to make mistakes, play, or simply be. Growing up too fast takes its toll later on, when the inner child begins to ask for recognition. This mourning is not about blaming the past, but about validating what was. Experience. A delicate exercise is to write a letter to the child you were, telling him what he needed to hear at that time. No judgment, no rush. Readings like The Inner Child, by John Bradshaw, help give language to this ancient pain. And when this grief is accepted, something new begins to form, a real path of emotional healing, less harsh and more human. Emotional healing does not begin with big changes, but with security. Safety to make mistakes, to rest, to feel without punishing yourself. Anyone who has experienced childhood trauma needs to relearn that the present does not require the same vigilance as the past. Growing up too fast taught rigidity. Healing is learning softness. Reconnecting with your inner child is allowing yourself small, guilt-free pleasures like playing, creating, laughing out loud, or simply not being productive for a few hours. This path does not ask for perfection. It asks for gentle constancy. A practical step is to create micro-rituals of care. Walk without headphones, writing without purpose, reading something light before bed. Books like The Artist's Way, by Julia Cameron, help to rescue this living part that has remained dormant. Healing is not becoming someone new, it is stopping abandoning yourself. And when this reconnection begins, everything changes pace, including the way you relate to the story itself. If you've made it this far, maybe something inside you has been touched. Not because these words are new, but because they put names on old sensations. Growing up too fast shaped who you are, but it doesn't need to define who you will be from now on. The question that remains is not what did I have to endure, but what do I need now? Where do you still demand maturity when what's missing is care? In what areas of your life do you continue to live in survival mode, even though you are safe today? Transformation begins in small, honest steps. Allow yourself to feel without correcting, rest without justifying, ask for help without guilt. Reconnecting with your inner child is not about returning to the past, it is about freeing the present. How about choosing a simple gesture today, saying no, slowing down, or simply breathing without rushing? If this content made sense to you, Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to continue this journey of emotional healing, self-knowledge and internal reconstruction with me.